Hi everybody. Now we'll move on to MCQs in the region of lower lip. The first question, Meralgia paresthetica is due to involvement of which of the following nerves? Which one is the right answer? Option? Yes, option C. So the cutaneous innervation on the front of thigh is by the following nerves. On the medial aspect by uppermost part of the medial aspect of thigh, ilioinguinal nerve, also the branches coming from obturator nerve, and then the medial cutaneous nerve of thigh. The skin over the femoral triangle femoral sheath is by femoral branch of genitofemoral nerve. Also, the intermediate cutaneous nerve of thigh, lateral cutaneous nerve of thigh, they also innervate the skin over the anterior aspect of thigh. Of these, the medial cutaneous nerve of thigh and intermediate cutaneous nerve of thigh, they are branches of femoral nerve. Whereas all the other nerves that you see here, the obturator nerve, ilioinguinal nerve, genitofemoral nerve, lateral cutaneous nerve of thigh, all of them are coming from lumbar plexus. This lateral cutaneous nerve of thigh or the lateral femoral cutaneous nerve, it enters the thigh beneath the inguinal ligament, okay, a notch below the anterosuperior iliac spine. Sometimes what can happen, this nerve, the lateral femoral cutaneous nerve of thigh, can pass in between the fibers of the inguinal ligament, can get trapped there. The compression of the nerve at this point can cause pain along the lateral aspect of the thigh. This condition is called meralgia paresthetica, right? Moving on to the second question, tributary of femoral vein. Okay, there are four options. Which among these is the tributary of femoral vein? Option B. Okay, so normally we remember great saphenous vein as the tributary of femoral vein. Okay, remember also the profunda femoris vein. Yeah, that is also the tributary of femoral vein. So this femoral vein is a frequently asked spotted. Yeah, they can ask you the tributaries, great saphenous vein and profunda femoris vein. The great saphenous vein is the longest vein in the body, and the tributaries of the great saphenous vein include the posterior arch vein, the anterior leg vein, the anterolateral vein of the thigh, the posteromedial vein of the thigh, which is also called the accessory saphenous vein. Before piercing the saphenous opening, yeah, it receives the superficial epigastric vein, superficial external pudendal vein, and the superficial circumflux iliac vein. But after passing through the saphenous opening, it receives the deep external pudendal vein. The deep external pudendal vein also opens into the great saphenous vein, right? Trendelenburg sign is due to injury of. Very important question. What's the answer? The answer is option yes. Superior gluteal nerve supplies three muscles. What are they? Gluteus medius, gluteus minimus, and tensa fascia lata. Yeah, all the three are abductors and medial rotators of the hip joint. So, what is Trendelenburg sign? When one foot is supported on the ground and the other foot is off the ground. Okay, as you see here, the right foot is on the ground. The contraction of the right gluteus medius, okay, it will prevent the pelvis on the opposite side from sinking down due to gravity on the unsupported side. Right? The right gluteus medius, okay, the foot which is on the ground, will prevent the sinking of the pelvis on the opposite side. So when there is injury to the right gluteus medius, what will happen? The pelvis will sink on the left side. This is called Trendelenburg sign. Hamstrings. Yeah. So what are the criteria for a muscle to be called hamstring? It should originate from ischial tuberosity, right? It should cross hip joint. It should cross knee joint. it should insert into one of the leg bone, and all of them are going to be supplied by tibial component of sciatic nerve. Okay, action of the hamstring, extensor of hip and flexor of knee. So what are the true hamstring? Semitendinosus and semimembranosus. The long head of biceps femoris initially originates from the sacrum ilium and then later on shifts to ischial tuberosity. So the remnant of that muscle, it forms the sacrotuberous ligament. Okay. The ischial part of adductor magnus, it doesn't cross your knee joint, but inserts into the adductor tubercle. And the remnant of that tendon forms the tibial collateral ligament. The short head of biceps femoris originates from the lateral lip of linea aspera. Okay. Popliteal lymph nodes drain lymph from option C. The popliteal fossa, as you see here, what will be the boundaries? Above and medially by semitendinosus, semimembranosus, laterally by biceps femoris, below and medially by medial head of gastrocnemius, laterally by the lateral head of gastrocnemius. What are the contents of popliteal fossa? You see the popliteal vein, yeah. You see the popliteal artery. The sciatic nerve divides at the upper angle of popliteal fossa into common peroneal nerve and tibial nerve. Can you tell me what vein is this? The short saphenous vein. Okay. Can you make out the popliteal lymph nodes here? Okay. So the lymphatics from the lateral margin of the sole and from the little toe, the back of the leg, which accompany the short saphenous vein, they open into the drain into the popliteal group of lymph nodes. Okay. And another important question, unlocking of knee joint. What do you mean by locked position of the knee joint? The knee joint in a fully extended position is called locked knee joint. Initiation of flexion from this full extension is called unlocking, and that is done by contraction of which muscle? The tendon of popliteus, right? You see the popliteus here. What is another special unique feature of popliteus? Okay, the tendon of popliteus that originates from the lateral femoral condyle is intracapsular in origin. This is the only muscle in the lower limb that has an intracapsular origin. What is the muscle of the upper limb that has an intracapsular origin? The long head of biceps brachii, right? So unlocking of knee joint by the contraction of popliteus. Peroneal artery is a branch of which one? And the answer is, yeah, posterior tibial artery. What are the branches of femoral artery? So the femoral artery will give rise to superficial branches. Superficial epigastric, superficial circumflux iliac, superficial external pudendal, muscular branches, profunda femoris, yes, deep external pudendal, descending genicular artery. 7 branches, right? Branches of popliteal artery, the genicular branches, supromedial genicular, inframedial genicular, supralateral genicular, infralateral genicular, and middle genicular. Am I right? Okay. Now this popliteal artery, it divides at the lower border of popliteus into anterior and posterior tibial arteries. What are the branches of anterior tibial artery? It gives rise to posterior tibial recurrent, anterior tibial recurrent, muscular branches to supply anterior compartment of the leg, the medial and lateral malleolar branches. What is the continuation of anterior tibial artery called? In the dorsum of the foot, dorsalis pedis artery. The dorsalis pedis artery, it gives rise to the tarsal branches, medial and lateral tarsal branches, the arcuate artery, and the first dorsal metatarsal artery. Okay, remember, the first dorsal metatarsal artery arises from dorsalis pedis artery. The second, third, and fourth dorsal metatarsal artery arises from arcuate artery. Got it? Coming to the posterior tibial artery, okay, that lies in the posterior compartment of the leg, and that's going to give rise to the circumflux fibular branch, the peroneal artery, nutrient artery to tibia. The nutrient artery to tibia is the largest nutrient artery in the body. It also gives rise to the medial malleolar branch, calcanean branch, and finally, what happens to the posterior tibial artery? It will divide into the medial and lateral plantar arteries. Okay, you should be thorough with the branches of all these arteries. Definitely a question will come from that. Easy. Foot drop is due to injury to which nerve? Option D. Any idea what is the other name for this nerve? Nervus hesitans. Okay, because of its tendency to cross the anterior tibial artery. So there's a picture here, cross section of the leg. This is the tibia and this is the fibula. Okay, so this is the interosseous membrane that you see here. Yeah, this is the anterior intermuscular septum, posterior intermuscular septum. This area is the anterior compartment of the leg. And what is the nerve of the anterior compartment of the leg? Yes, the deep peroneal nerve. What are the muscles here? This is the tibialis anterior. This is your extensor, hallucis longus, extensor digitorum longus. Okay. Lateral compartment, peroneus longus, peroneus brevis. Nerve of this compartment, superficial peroneal nerve. Posterior compartment, this is the medial head of gastrocnemius, the lateral head of gastrocnemius, plantaris. This is soleus. This will be the tibialis posterior, flexor hallucis longus, flexor digitorum longus. Nerve of the posterior compartment of the leg, the tibial nerve. Okay. So what is the action of the muscles in the posterior compartment of leg? All of them are plantar flexors, right? So injury to tibial nerve, inability to plantar flex the foot. And action of the muscles of the anterior compartment, dorsiflexors of the foot. Injury to deep peroneal nerve, especially when it winds around the neck of the fibula, that will lead to weakness in dorsiflexion. And that is called foot drop. Yeah, the lateral compartment muscles are the everters of foot. Ninth question. Quadratus plantae is found in which layer of the sole? Easy. Option B. So in the first layer, at least the name of the muscles definitely you should know. Okay. So what are the muscles that you see here? The abductors. Okay. Abductor, hallucis, abductor, digiti minimi. And in the center, you can see the tendons, right? Flexor digitorum brevis. In the second layer, of the sole, what are the muscles and tendons you get to see? The tendon for the great toe, flexor hallucis longus. The tendon for the rest of the digits, flexor digitorum longus. The muscle originating from the sides of the tendon of flexor digitorum longus, that will be the lumbricals. And the muscle inserting into the tendon of flexor digitorum longus will be flexor digitorium accessorius, which is also called quadratus plantae. Right? And here, the muscles that you see here in the third layer of the sole will be flexor hallucis brevis, adductor hallucis, flexor digiti minimi brevis. Third layer. And in the fourth layer, the deeper muscle will get to see the interossei, the four dorsal interossei, the three plantar interossei, and two tendons, tendon of tibialis posterior, tendon of peroneus longus. Right? So quadratus plantar is found in the second layer of sole. Coming to the next question, medial plantar nerve supplies all except. Okay, so the muscles of the sole are supplied by medial and lateral plantar nerve, which are the terminal branches of tibial nerve that's lying in the posterior compartment of leg, right? Now, this medial plantar nerve supplies only four muscles of the sole. All the others are supplied by lateral plantar nerve. So if you remember the muscles supplied by medial plantar nerve, indirectly you will also know the muscles supplied by the lateral plantar nerve. The medial plantar nerve supplies in the first layer abductor hallucis. Okay, beneath the abductor hallucis, what do you have in the third layer? Flexor hallucis brevis. Okay, then flexor digitorum brevis, which lies in the first layer, and the first lumbrical. Okay, so remember, only these four muscles are supplied by medial plantar nerve. Two muscles for the great toe, the abductor hallucis, flexor hallucis brevis, flexor digitorum brevis, first lumbrical. All the other muscles of the sole are supplied by lateral plantar nerve. Okay. Tibialis anterior, which compartment of the leg? Anterior compartment of the leg. What is its nerve supply? Deep peroneal nerve. Something special about tibialis anterior. Any idea? That's the only muscle in the body which is circumpenate arrangement of the muscle fibers. So lying in the anterior compartment, it's going to cause dorsiflexion of the foot. Apart from that, since it lies along the medial border of the foot, it causes inversion. Do you know any other muscle causing inversion? Tibialis posterior. Okay, so the tibialis anterior and tibialis posterior, they cause inversion of foot. Eversion of foot is caused by the peroneal muscles, peroneus longus, peroneus brevis, and peroneus tertius. The muscles in the anterior compartment of the leg, you can see the tibialis anterior here. Skin over second interdigital cleft. Cutaneous innervation of hand and cutaneous innervation of foot is very important. Okay, what is the answer? Yes. So the skin over the dorsum of the foot in the region of the first interdigital cleft, as you see here, the skin over the first interdigital cleft is supplied by deep peroneal nerve. The skin over the lateral margin is supplied by sural nerve. And the skin along the medial margin up to the ball of the great toe or the first metatarsophalangeal joint is supplied by saphenous nerve. And the rest of the skin over the dorsum of the foot is supplied by superficial peroneal nerve. So what is our question? Innervation over the skin of the second interdigital cleft. That's by the superficial peroneal nerve. The superficial peroneal nerve supplies peroneus longus, brevis, and then it pierces the deep fascia to supply the skin over the dorsum of the foot. Extensor of hip joint. So iliopsoas is a chief flexor of the hip joint. Gluteus maximus as well as the hamstring muscles extend the hip joint. But what is the difference? The gluteus maximus contracts. It helps while the patient or the person raises the trunk from the sitting posture. Whereas the hamstrings, what do? They support, they keep the hip in extended position during walking, standing. Obturator internus, obturator externus, and the other short muscles in the gluteal region, the piriformis, the superior inferior gemelli, and the quadratus femoris. All of them are the short lateral rotators. Okay. Gluteus maximus also causes lateral rotation of the hip. Tensa fascia lata, gluteus medius minimus, all of them are abductors and medial rotators of the hip joint. Okay, so the answer is gluteus maximus. Okay, knee joint, intracapsular ligament of knee joint, easy. What are the intracapsular ligaments? Anterior cruciate ligament. So what are the extracapsular ligaments of the knee joint that lies outside the capsule? Ligamentum petallae, the medial or the tibial collateral ligament, the lateral or the fibular collateral ligament, and on the posterior aspect, the oblique popliteal ligament, the arcuate ligament. All these which lies outside the capsule of the knee joint is called extracapsular ligament. What about intracapsular ligament? The anterior cruciate ligament, the posterior cruciate ligament. Okay. Apart from that, we have the menisci, right? So the anterior aspect of both the menisci, they are joined by the transverse ligament, transverse meniscal ligament. And then apart from that, these menisci are anchored to the condyles of tibia by another ligament called the coronary ligament. Okay, we have the transverse ligament, coronary ligament, and then this posterior cruciate ligament is anchored to the femoral condyle by means of the meniscofemoral ligament. So the cruciate ligament and these three ligaments as well as the menisci, they all lie within the capsule of the knee joint and are intracapsular. Remember the tendon of popliteus, that is also intracapsular in origin. Decubitus ligament of ankle joint, the one which is frequently sprained in sports is your ankle joint, okay? And the ligament injured is anterior talofibula. On the medial aspect, we have the most strong deltoid ligament. The lateral ligament has three parts, of which the anterior talofibular ligament is the weakest. Saddle joint of lower limb. Yes. What's the answer? So what are the saddle joints in the human body? In upper limb, we have the sternoclavicular joint, the first carpometacarpal joint, and in lower limb, the patellofemoral joint, the calcaneocuboid joint, and between the ossicles of the ear, the incudomedial joint. So these are the 5 saddle joints in the human body, right? Hip joint is an example of ball and socket. Knee joint between the condyles of femur and tibia. It is a complex synovial joint due to the presence of an menisci, that the intra-articular disc, and it is condylar because of the movements taking place, that flexion, extension, and some amount of rotation. We call it as modified hinge joint. Between the tibia and fibula, remember it's very important, the superior tibiofibular joint is a plain synovial joint. Okay, please remember. The middle tibiofibular joint is syndesmosis connected by the interosseous membrane. The lower tibiofibular joint is fibrous joint. And ankle joint, yeah, the lower end of the tibia fibula with the talus, that is also again a hinge joint, permitting dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. Among the joints in the foot, two important things that you should remember. The talocalcaneonavicular joint in the foot is an example for ball and socket. Okay. And just now we saw the calcaneocuboid joint is an example for saddle type of synovial joint. And then the other intercarpal, the intertarsal joints, the tarsometatarsal joints, yeah, they're all plain synovial joint. And the interphalangeal joints, the proximal and the distal interphalangeal joint, they are hinge joint. The metatarsophalangeal joint, similar to the knuckle joints here in the upper limb, they are ellipsoid. Okay. Keystone of medial longitudinal arch. Yes, arches of foot is an important essay question. The answer here is head of talus. So the medial longitudinal arch is contributed by the calcaneum, talus, naviculum, the medial 3 cuneiform, and the medial 3 metatarsal. Okay, the posterior pillar is formed by the medial tubercle of calcaneum, the anterior pillar by the head of the medial 3 metatarsal. The summit, the highest point of medial longitudinal arch, is by superior surface of the talus, whereas the keystone or the vulnerable portion of the medial longitudinal arch is by the head of talus. The lateral longitudinal arch is contributed by calcaneum, cuboid, the 4th and the 5th metatarsal. The posterior pillar is formed by medial tubercle of calcaneum. The anterior pillar is formed by the head of the 5th and the 4th metatarsal. The highest point of the lateral longitudinal arch is by subtalar joint. Okay. And the weakest point, the vulnerable portion or the keystone of lateral longitudinal arch is calcaneocuboid joint. Right? Medial most muscle of thigh, easy? Yes, the answer is gracilis. So you can get it in your spotter. That's the gracilis. What is the nerve supply to it? The obturator nerve. Okay. You get to see the adductor longus, the pectineus. The vas major has been removed. This is your vastus intermedius, vastus medialis, vastus lateralis. Ligamentum teres artery is a branch of, any idea? Obturator artery. This obturator artery will give a acetabular branch that will supply the acetabular fossa. From this acetabular branch, artery will accompany the ligamentum teres that goes to supply the fovea capitis and the head of the femur surrounding that region. Okay, that's called the ligamentum teres artery. The other main source of blood supply to the head of the femur, neck of femur, comes from the medial circumflex femoral artery and the anastomosis between the medial and lateral circumflex femoral artery. Okay. Can you see this here? The ligamentum teres, the artery there. Okay, remember it's a branch from the obturator artery. Brodie's bursa lies within the, what's the correct answer? Medial head of gastrocnemius. Okay. So the bursa that lies beneath the medial head of gastrocnemius is Brodie's bursa. What is the name of the sesamoid bone that lies within the lateral head of gastrocnemius? Fibella. The sesamoid bone that lies within the tendon of popliteus, Ciamella. Soleus is also called the peripheral heart because of the presence of venous plexus within it. Right? So with this, we'll wind up the MCQ session on lower limb. Any doubt, you can get back to me. Thank you.